Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days in 5 minutes. And coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, we'll be looking at the week ahead, which has a major warm up for the eastern part of the United States. Storm system that we're going to deal with in midweek here in the eastern U.S., and then another shot of cold air behind that one as it goes by. So tune in. We'll talk long range as well. That's tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So, as we're looking at the watches and warnings on this Sunday morning, it's very busy out in the West. We've got numerous winter storm warnings up and winter weather advisories across Washington and Oregon, down into the Sierra Nevadas in California, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Northeast Nevada. There's a lot of wind advisories and high wind warnings up too. And we've got winter storm watches up for the Central Rockies from uh, Colorado on northward into parts of Wyoming. But in the eastern part of the United States, it's quiet. It's a cold morning. The core of the cold air mass is overhead. We saw lows this morning in upstate New York in the single digits and teens along the coast, upper teens and low 20s, from southern New England down through eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Freezing temperatures all the way down into Georgia. However, warm up is coming quickly. This high is going to be moving offshore. We're going to turn on the southwest wind, and we're going to see temperatures rise rather fast over the next couple of days. And in fact, when we look at forecast highs for the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, down into the Mississippi Valley and point southward, we're going to see 70s and 80s ahead of the next cold front. Not much happening skywise on the satellite this morning. Skies mainly clear up and down the eastern seaboard, just a few patchy clouds here and there. Beautiful morning in the southeast. Pretty dry all back up through Texas and on up through the plains, at least for now. And we're beginning to see moisture with a storm coming into the Pacific Northwest. The radars are getting busy in the Northwest with rain and snow coming in to Washington State. We're seeing some areas of snow in parts of Idaho and Montana. In the east, it's fairly quiet, nothing with regards to precipitation up and down the eastern seaboard. There's a little patch of showers ahead of a warm front in southern Illinois, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, mostly light stuff as that heads up to the northeast. Severe weather this week is going to be an issue, and that will be in the middle Mississippi and Ohio Valley. This is for Tuesday into Wednesday, where we have a marginal to slight risk being indicated at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a small area of enhanced risk show up with this, as well as some elevated tornado risk. As far as precipitation is concerned, big time in the west, up and down the west coast, kind of tails off a little bit, but still inch and a half amounts all the way down to San Diego. We're talking about several to many inches in the orange areas in the Sierra Nevadas and up through western Oregon and western Washington. And of course, in the mountains, it's going to be big snows spread out over the next 7 days, as well as in the Northern Rockies. In the east, pretty much a half to three-quarters of an inch. I think we'll get that with that cold front that's going to come through late Wednesday night into early Thursday. We also may see some showers Tuesday night into Wednesday morning as the very warm air tries to push into the northeast. Heavier amounts in parts of Ohio, western Pennsylvania, down into West Virginia. And when we look at snow, it's all in the west. This is the probability for at least 2 inches in the next 72 hours. So this takes us to Wednesday morning. And if we up the probability to at least eight, you'll see that there are areas here of 80 to 100% probability for at least eight. A lot of these places in the Cascades will wind up with 2 to 3 feet of snow before this week is done, as well as parts of the Northern Rockies. In the eastern part of the United States, it's relatively quiet. We are going to see some snow also spread out through the plain states and into the northwestern part of the Great Lakes in northern Minnesota, where we have a high probability of at least a few inches. But again, the Northeast not showing much of anything. So, as far as the weather pattern is concerned going forward, we continue to see this trough in the east lifting up with ridging developing ahead of another deep trough that drops down into the plain states and into the western lakes. That'll swing a cold front through here late this week. along with another quick shot of cold air, and then the ridge comes right back as another deep trough drops down into the eastern part of into the western part of the United States. So warmer than normal temperatures overall, except for these odd days here and there, like yesterday and today, where temperatures are close to or a little bit below average, and then it warms up. So it's southwest winds, and those winds are going to pick up a bit, especially as we get to later Tuesday into Wednesday. You see this storm that's coming uh, across the plains and heading to the western Great Lakes. A second low is going to form down in Colorado. Ahead of it, we'll probably get into some rain here Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Strong southwest flow. I think we'll probably see gusts 30, 40 miles an hour as we head toward the end of the week, maybe slightly below wind advisory criteria, but temperatures are going to be the big deal as we see them run up into the 60s from New York City south and west. South facing shorelines are going to have an issue. Then this front's going to swing eastward. We may break out for a little while on Wednesday before we get into a round of showers and maybe even a rumble or two of thunder. The GFS wants to show the cold air coming in and maybe briefly changing the rain over to a little wet snow before it ends on the backside. I'm not really too concerned about this. And then after that front goes by, it turns colder and drier for Friday and going into next weekend. There's a little system that models are picking up on off the southeast coast that might bring up an area of rain up the coast next weekend. But for now, that's a ways away. And one thing's for sure, either way, there's really no cold air around. So we're talking rain events here and not anything with respect to snow. Okay, so remember, Joe and Joe Weather Show is coming up tonight at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So have a great Sunday, and we'll see you this evening.